What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. Man, it's hard to believe how quickly this year has gone and really just how fast this season has come upon us. It still doesn't even really feel like it's here because with preseason gone and so much changed in the offseason, it felt like it was never going to be here. But now we are 1 week away from the official kickoff of the NFL season. A lot of people are doing their drafts over Labor Day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday coming up. There's been so much news that has come out just over the last week. This is going to be one crazy year for fantasy football. And, with everything that's changed, we released our My Guys video a couple weeks ago. And with, a few injuries occurring in training camp, a couple things shifting around, we did pivot off of two guys. I wanted to make sure we gave you guys that information up front. If you haven't done your draft yet, make sure we put you onto the right path. So we're good on quarterback, we're good on tight end, but we did change one running back and one wide receiver on our My Guys list. So I wanted to give you guys that update, and we'll go through it and talk a little bit about these guys a little bit more in detail and give you some updates. So first, we'll start with the running back. Obviously, we got him pictured right here, James White. So James White is replacing Duke Johnson. I took Duke Johnson off my Guys list. I think David Johnson, even though I don't expect him to be that efficient, I just don't see Bill O'Brien relinquishing that workload to Duke Johnson, even though I think he deserves it. At this point, Duke Johnson is pretty much in the same tier as Chase Edmonds, as Tony Pollard. Basically needs an injury if he's going to be fantasy relevant for any significant portion of the season. So that being said, looking at James White. So James White, we were already kind of high on in terms of our rankings. We had him above ADP, but now we're even more in on James White with Damian Harris having a hand injury, potentially not being able to go to start the year. He was really the only other potential running back in that running back room that was going to steal any passes out of the backfield. And with a hand injury, even if he's able to recover enough to take carries, that's going to impact his ability to catch the ball. They also released Mohamed Sanu, who's more of a short intermediate route guy that would be taking away routes that James White would run. I mean, at this point, I think James White is going to be the RB2 on this team. You got Julian Edelman, and James White will be the number 1 and number 2 pass catchers. Unless N'Keal Harry surprises us and breaks out, I think he'll end up being the number 3 in terms of targets and catches on this team. But James White is going to be an absolute smash in PPR, and his ADP has not risen. Like, it's just been pooling around 7th, 8th round. And that's on Fantasy Football Calculator. I think it's even later in some other drafts. So James White, to me, is an absolute smash at his ADP. Last year, he had 95 targets, 645 receiving yards, and at 6.5 yards per touch. That was number 2 among all running backs in the NFL. Didn't do great in the juke rate department, only 10.1%, but still a plus 28.7 production premium. There were 124 vacated targets, and that was prior to Mohamed Sanu being traded, so that number's gone up even more. I'm just pulling this stat from the video that we did before. And then in 2018, James White, playing in 16 games, that was the year that he completely dominated for fantasy. He had 87 receptions and 751 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns in the air, and then also had 425 rushing yards on 94 attempts and 5 touchdowns on the ground. That put him at 276.6 fantasy points. I believe that was either 7th or 8th at the position. 7th. He was 7th at the position for running back fantasy points scored in PPR, and was an absolute steal that year. And I really think we're coming into a season where that exact same thing is going to happen again. You're able to get him super cheap, which is exactly what you want. A running back that's going in the later rounds that people are just off of for whatever reason. This gives you the ability to, take a few more receivers or a tight end in the earlier rounds, because you can still get James White as your RB2 or 3. I'm totally cool with that. So absolutely love James White this year. I think he's going to smash. We saw what he did with, we saw what Cam Newton did with Christian McCaffrey back in 2018 as well. I think that this is going to be a very similar situation there. And to your question, I absolutely love James White week 1 in Miami, especially if Damian Harris is out. If Damian Harris doesn't play, Sony Michel doesn't scare me. Lamar Miller definitely doesn't scare me. I don't even know if Rex Burkhead is going to make the team at this point. And even if Damian Harris does play, I still think that defense against Miami is still going to be pretty porous, and James White is going to be a absolute steal in drafts right now. All right, so that is our change at running back. So recapping, if you watched our last My Guys video, like we said, we changed Duke Johnson out. So now we got our 5 guys: Miles Sanders, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, and James White. Hit our other My Guy video up for our explanations for everybody else. We did update our honorable mentions as well. We threw Duke Johnson in here because I still believe that he has the potential to be a league winner, but at this point, it's more likely to only matter if David Johnson goes down to injury. And then Chris Thompson, someone that also could be a very similar player to James White, with Leonard Fournette being traded away, or not traded, being released and then signing with the Buccaneers. Chris Thompson now has a pretty decent role playing with his old offensive coordinator from Washington. I don't really believe that much in Raquel Armstead or Devine Ozigbo. Chris Thompson is definitely the best pass catcher on this team, and they've been using him a lot in camp. He's probably gonna get hurt. So if he does come out and play really well, you're probably gonna want to trade him before that happens, because he hasn't finished the season. Honestly, I can't remember when, but should have plenty of value, someone that you'd be able to start. And the Jaguars have a pretty easy schedule for the first 6 weeks of the season. So if you can get like 5 or 6 starts out of Chris Thompson, drafting him in your 12th round, that's an absolute steal. So wanted to throw that name in the ring there too in our honorable mentions. All right, and then at wide receiver, AJ Green needs to be taken off our list. After injuring that hamstring, he still is not back to full speed. He's been limited this entire time. At age 32, when you already have an injury before the season, we haven't seen him play competitively and strongly since 2018. It's too much for me to buy into at this point. I love AJ Green, the player, and I really hope that he can turn it around. I could still be wrong. If you drafted AJ Green, I'm not trying to sell him at 60 cents on the dollar, but I am significantly worried at this point that AJ Green is never going to regain the elite level of play that he used to maintain. So with that being said, we are pivoting off of AJ Green and moving on to Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup is incredibly undervalued in fantasy right now. Last year had honestly the quietest breakout season of any receiver last year. Only playing 14 games, he had 112 targets and 66 receptions and over 1,100 receiving yards and 6 total touchdowns. That was good for 112 targets, which was number 23 in the NFL. He had a 21.7% target share, 793 completed air yards, number 14 in the NFL. Now, his biggest issue was his drops. He had 11 drops, which is the highest in the NFL, but still had a very high yards per target, yards per reception, 16.8, 9.9 yards per target. Absolutely dominant. And from this point in training camp, he's been the best receiver in camp. Not that we don't like CeeDee Lamb, not that we don't like Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper is already missing practice time. He was hurt. Last year when Amari Cooper went down, Michael Gallup was the wide receiver 12 in PPR scoring from week 11 to week 17 when Amari Cooper was nursing that injury. So if Amari Cooper is already hurt to start the year, Michael Gallup is coming into a situation where he's coming into his 3rd year. We all know about the 3rd year breakout. Typically wide receivers, if they don't break out in their 1st year, you start seeing that ramp up. But by the 3rd year, if they're really good, which we know Michael Gallup is good, scoring over 1,100 receiving yards last year, this could be an absolute dominant year for him. And yeah, CeeDee Lamb is there, but we're expecting this offense to have to throw the ball more. We're expecting the defense to be worse, so they're going to have to score more points, which means Dak Prescott is going to be passing the ball more. CeeDee Lamb is pretty much just taking Randall Cobb's targets. Jason Witten is gone, so unless Blake Jarwin is 1 for 1 in the amount of targets that Witten got, and Witten got like 80 targets last year, Michael Gallup still has a really significant role. And if Amari Cooper's injury is more serious than they're letting on, Michael Gallup would be an absolute steal, going in one of the best offenses in the NFL. He's being drafted in like the late 7th round right now. That's just stupid to me. Like, Michael Gallup is an absolute steal in the 6th round. I would much rather have him than like some of the other guys going around there, Will Fuller, Tyler Boyd. Like, give me Michael Gallup every single time. I want a player on the Cowboys offense who I think is going to be one of the best passing offenses in the league. Michael Gallup is an absolute steal. And what's nice about it is you don't have to spend one of those premium picks to get Amari Cooper, because you can just grab Michael Gallup a couple rounds later. This is another one of those. You have there's a lot of guys in the league right now where you have, an earlier pick going and then a later pick, like Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson. A lot of people will argue one way or another. You get, arguments for Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones, but there's typically a pretty big gap between the output that you're expecting from like Galladay and Jones, or like Julio and Calvin Ridley, versus Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. I mean, last year they finished pretty close to each other in terms of total points anyway, or at least in points per game. Michael Gallup had 15.2 points per game. Amari Cooper had 15.4. The only reason that there was any disparity in their point total was because Michael Gallup played 14 games and Amari Cooper played 16. So if Michael Gallup had played a full 16 games, they would have finished literally next to each other. But there's still a 3 to 4 round ADP difference right now, and it makes absolutely no sense. So pivoting off of AJ Green, jumping all over Michael Gallup at his ADP right now, and Michael Gallup joins the ranks of our My Guys this year. We've got DJ Moore, Odell Beckham, Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett, and now Michael Gallup. If you get 3 of these guys in your draft, you are set. If you can't get 3 of these guys, some honorable mentions for you as well. Allen Robinson, again, was someone that we really like. If you miss out on DJ Moore, Allen Robinson is my next target. Pretty much the only game in town last year. We do believe that Anthony Miller will take a step forward, but I think Allen Robinson is talented enough. He'll be able to weather the storm there, regardless of whether it's Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky throwing the ball. DJ Chark is honestly probably even more valuable now that Leonard Fournette is gone. That passing offense is they're going to have to air the ball out all the time. That defense is atrocious. They're going to be behind playing in garbage time the entire year, and DJ Chark is going to eat in that environment. Brandon Cooks, someone that we like a little better than Will Fuller, but I think we actually have Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks ranked pretty much next to each other, but I think Brandon Cooks actually has a pretty decent shot at actually being the leading pass catcher in Houston, especially with Will Fuller's injury history. Not that Brandon Cooks doesn't have one of those as well, but I think he's still a little bit better at a whole round value later. Rather take a shot on him. Then Sterling Shepard and Deshaun Jackson, guys that you can get pretty late. I mean, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton are 2 guys that I like a lot. Golden Tate's already hurt, but one of those guys is going to absolutely smash with their ADP. We're expecting Daniel Jones to take a pretty big leap forward this year, and all of his receivers are going 10th round or later. That seems pretty easy to me. And then Deshaun Jackson replacing Jalen Reagor. My heart broke when Jalen Reagor got hurt. Absolutely love Reagor, but with him potentially being out for the first month of the season. And I mean, this is the same injury that Tyrell Williams is dealing with now that he's now on IR for. So there's an unfortunate but potential chance that we don't see Jalen Reagor at all in 2020. So with that being said, Deshaun Jackson, his ADP is way too low. You can start him right away. He's probably not going to finish the year just like Chris Thompson, but if you can get multiple good starts out of a guy that you're drafting in the double-digit rounds and then flip him in a trade or just pick up a guy off the waiver when he gets hurt, that's what you want to do. You fill the back end of your roster with guys that can completely smash with their ADPs, and then you either have a bargaining chip for a trade or you just got some good starters for a while and you get off to a hot start. All right, and then just to recap, we didn't change any of these guys. You can check out our My Guys video on our channel, but our My Guys for quarterback this year is Dak Prescott, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Ryan Tannehill. And we did an update. We changed Kirk Cousins to Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo's ceiling is just a bit higher than Kirk Cousins, and we're expecting the 49ers have to throw the ball a little bit more this year, so Jimmy G could surprise. But Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Jimmy G, and Teddy Bridgewater, if you're not able to get Dak Prescott, Matt Ryan, or Cam Newton, or Ryan Tannehill. And then at tight end, again, no changes. Mike Gesicki, Tyler Higbee, TJ Hawkinson, and Jonnu Smith. Still absolutely love the strategy of taking 2 of these guys. If you can get 2 of them, that is perfect. If you miss out on one of them, no sweat. You can get Blake Jarwin or Chris Herndon. If you do jump early, I absolutely love George Kittle this year. I've been going back and forth between him and Travis Kelce in terms of the number 1 overall tight end. They go pretty close to each other, but if you miss out on Kelce, I think Kittle actually has a pretty good chance at taking the throne this year as the number 1 tight end. And then Evan Ingram is always worth the upside shot in round 8 or 9. He has been, a top 4, top 5 tight end every single time he's actually been able to stay on the field. It's just a matter of whether or not he can stay on the field. But that is it, guys. So sorry, Duke Johnson. Sorry, AJ Green. We had faith in you, and we've lost our faith in you. We replaced you with James White and Michael Gallup. Guys, this is it. This is the last stretch run. I hope you are excited for your drafts this weekend. I hope that you absolutely kill it. Hit me up in the comment section with any questions, thoughts, discussion points, and we will keep going, give you guys as much help as we can. After this week, we're going to be releasing our game previews, our Rankings will be up on our website here pretty soon for week 1, and we will be doing everything that we can throughout the season to keep you guys on the up and up, giving you guys trade reports, stock reports, showing you guys all the changes around the league so that way you can take advantage of the rest of your leagues and pick up some guys when their stock is low before they rise up again. So we're doing all that for you guys as we go. Super pumped for this year. Can't believe we're already a week away. Love you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.